Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us on today's webinar, Visual IVR, the Self-Service Enabler. My name is Neil Spalding. I'm the Head of Partnerships here at Synthetics, and I'm also joined by my colleague from our marketing department, our Head of Marketing, Neldy Rautenbach, who is going to curate some of the questions that hopefully will come through during or after we've gone through everything. So I'm anticipating around a 30-minute runtime of just the actual webinar and the information from myself, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some questions. So certainly don't want to keep anybody too long on the webinar today, so we'll try and make it as short and snappy as possible. So I'll dive straight into it. I'll give you a quick overview of the things that we're actually going to run through on the session today. So I'll start off with a quick introduction to Synthetics, so we can talk about who we are, what we do, and some of our clients. Hopefully that will resonate with some of the people that are on the webinar today. Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. So what is Visual IVR? So we'll talk about what it is, where it came from, and who is using it. And also we're going to talk about the results that some of those clients have seen from the use of Visual IVR. Then we'll go into probably the most interesting part, which will be the live demos of Visual IVR. So I'm going to show you Boot's website. So that'll be their live website, and it will be the Visual IVR instance on their website, and Synco as well, which is a bit of a demo site just to show some different things that you can do with the system as well. And then lastly, we will be presenting a case study. So after a demo, we will show some real life results of implementing self-service and, more importantly, Visual IVR on a well-known high street retailer website. So that's what we're going to cover off. So without further ado, I will get into it. So about Synthetics. Synthetics have been around for 17 years. So we're a far cry from kind of a new age AI tech startup. We've been doing it a long time, and we started out 17 years ago in the virtual agent or chatbot space, and solely we built virtual assistants early on for brands like the BBC, Ford, that you can see at the bottom there. And we did that very successfully for about 8 or 9 years, and then from there we branched out into multi-channel customer service, which is where we are today. And at the moment we have about kind of 5 or 6 core products that formulate what our offering is. So you can see across the bottom there, virtual assistants, FAQ search. We have our own live chat system, and of course Visual IVR, which is what we're going to be concentrating on today. Visual IVR is it's a new product really to Synthetics. It stemmed from a previous product that we used to call our dynamic web form, but with the technology that's now available to us, things have been redeveloped recently, and we're really kind of launching it now and showing people what's possible with it. So you can see across the bottom there an array of our different clients. The important thing to note on this really is that it's not sector specific. So we have strong enterprise clients across all sectors. Wherever customer service, customer experience, or contact centers are important, Synthetics invariably can have an effect. So probably the work on there that we're most proud of is the work that we did with the London Olympic Games, where we provided all of the knowledge management services. So self-service FAQs for people who were visiting the games in London. And also we powered their contact center knowledge. So we basically provided their contact center agents with all the information they needed to answer questions from tourists or members of the public who were visiting the game. So very, very proud to have been involved in that. We have a really strong foothold in utilities, specifically water utilities. So we work with about 50% of the UK water utility market, providing them with various different digital customer service systems, live chat, FAQ systems, and of course, Visual IVR. So that's a bit of a background of Synthetics. This slide really is the most important part when we're talking about the description of what we do. We call it our spidergram, even though it only has 6 legs. So this really represents the Synthetics DNA and everything that we offer. So if you can imagine the center part of that represents what we call a knowledge base. A knowledge base is basically made up of a load of articles, and an article is like an FAQ. So it's a question and it's an answer, and it's any content that then can sit within that answer to answer a question. So it doesn't have to just be text-based answers. It can be video content, how-to guides, images, links to web forms. Everything like that sits within a centralized repository of knowledge, and then we serve that knowledge out to either customers or potentially internal or contact center users through our different products, which are represented on the outside. So starting in the top left, we have our virtual agent. So the virtual agent is a conversational, AI-powered and goal-orientated tool, which not only is focus on answering customer questions, it can also be there to potentially generate revenue. So it can book appointments for sales agents. It can lead people through a buying process and things like that. Moving around to the right, we have our intelligent FAQ system. So this is a dynamic FAQ system, which is specifically focused around reducing unnecessary inbound contact into a contact center. So that's through answering customer questions online. Probably our most widely used product and very, very successful when it comes to bringing down the amount of emails and calls that come into contact centers. Moving around again, we have our agent knowledge base, which now is in the contact center. So this formulates part of our contact center offering. This really is an encyclopedia of knowledge. Again, using that centralized knowledge base, all of our systems use proprietary and very powerful natural language search processing algorithms, which, without boring anybody who's not technical, means that customers can ask questions in their own language and get the relevant answer as quickly as possible. So the agent knowledge base is what the agents use to get answers to questions when they are asked questions by customers, either over the phone or through different contact channels. Then we have our live chat or messaging channels. So live chat, I'm sure everybody on this webinar has come across live chat, either professionally within your organizations or personally when you're dealing in your personal life with your own bank or your telco company. A lot of live chat systems have a lot of similar traits. However, we go a step further with ours. It has full integration, again, with that knowledge base. So when a customer is typing a message, an agent can not only see what they're typing as they type it, but we automatically search the knowledge base based on that customer query to recommend articles to an agent to help them answer customer questions more quickly, more consistently, and more efficiently. Moving around, we've got visual IVR, which I will not talk about now because we're going to talk plenty about that in the following few minutes. And then lastly, we have APIs. So for anybody on the call who is even a little bit technical, they will know that APIs aren't actually a product. They're a way of delivering our product. So we use what we call RESTful APIs, which basically means integration for us is really, really easy. We can integrate with various systems. We've done a lot of integration with CRM systems like Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. And for us, that's very, very simple. So that's kind of it on what we do. Just a few stats to throw at you before we really get into the more important visual IVR stuff and the focus of the day. Our systems are answering over 10 million questions. So I should say AI-powered systems are answering over 10 million questions per annum. We're serving around 4 million customers, so across all of our clients who are using our systems, that's roughly how many customers we are touching with our self-service or our agent knowledge systems. We're doing over 1 million live web chats per year, so that's all going through the synthetic system and the infrastructure, and we've got about 15,000 live contact center agents using the systems every single day. That's the numbers, and that's really it for the about synthetics part. So, moving on. What is visual IVR? I'm unsure whether anybody who's listening to this today has come across visual IVR. For synthetics, it's a new thing built upon an old idea and an old platform, but recently we've made a lot of changes to it, hence we're going through a bit of a launch phase with this new product. So as I mentioned, it's formerly the Synthetics Dynamic Web Form. And it's a digital contact solution which brings together core digital customer channels. If that's not making a load of sense at the moment, don't worry. I'm going to do, as I said, a full demo of it, and you will see what we mean by bringing together those digital customer channels. But more importantly, I suppose, we want to talk about the core aims of the system. So what does the system do for a business? So there's a couple to throw at you here. So probably the most important is, and where we've seen great results with this, we reduce the number of unnecessary inbound emails through the use of integrated knowledge, which drives digital self-service. We intelligently offer escalation routes to the customer, such as live chat and callback or any other escalation route you can think of, dependent on their journey so far. So we do that. We use the word intelligently because we don't just offer live chat on every single customer journey. But if we detect that perhaps the customer is entering into a buying process with us, maybe we'll figure that is a good time to launch live chat. Maybe if somebody's asking us about our terms and conditions or something that is kind of definitive and won't change, then it's probably not the best use of time to route a live chat. So that's what we mean by intelligently offering escalation. So the other thing, so first and foremost, what we're looking at doing is potentially deflecting that email. So although this is a web form at its core, what we're really hoping people do is that they leave the web form, they find their answer elsewhere, and they don't need to come into the contact center. But if they do, we want to gather every piece of information that relates to that customer query to ensure that the query can be resolved first time. If an email comes in, we want to resolve the query first time. On average at the moment, a lot of clients are taking between 2.5 and I think 4 emails per query to answer a customer question, which takes a lot of unnecessary time. And that really relates to those people who are using just a generic email address, so an unstructured email address on the website. And lastly, we want to intelligently route emails straight to the correct individual, which shortens handling times and can, again, help to increase first contact resolution rates. So we've seen actually probably quite a shocking amount of businesses who have a generic email address and just have them all of their customer service emails, all of their any other business emails going into one centralized inbox to then normally manually be delegated to different teams, which really is a bit of a waste of time. So the visual IVR system helps to combat that. So I'm going to jump off of the PowerPoint now. I think 10 minutes is plenty of me talking for the moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into some real life examples. So I mentioned probably the most interesting part of this webinar will be the real life demos. So I'm going to jump over to my browser now. So hopefully everybody is following this on screen. And you can see that I'm on the Boots Contact Us page. So Boots have been a Synthetics client for about 5 years now. I think actually maybe 5, coming up 6 years. And they use a couple of our systems. Clearly today we're going to focus in on the visual IVR. So on their Contact Us page, they promote some FAQs at the top. So the first thing that Boots do, away from reducing emails via the visual IVR system, is what they do is they promote all of their other contact channels before email, which again is completely their choice. But they promote FAQs first, then they have the option to call them, and then towards the bottom of this page, they have the option to email us. So if I click on this email us button, this launches a lightbox. So what you're seeing in front of you now is a version of the Synthetics visual IVR system. So on the first page, Boots have chosen to take a number of contact details from the customer. This isn't a necessity, so our clients don't have to do this. This is the way that Boots have chosen to do it, and I will show you an alternative example after. But you will notice straight away when the visual IVR is launched, we are showing knowledge articles over here. So this is a dynamic list of articles. So these are the most frequently asked questions at the moment within the Boots knowledge base, okay? So we actually know that these are the most likely questions that will answer the customer query. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the journey, and I'm going to take you right to the last page, but I'm not going to submit it, because as I mentioned, this is the live website, and I don't want to spam them. So I'm going to fill this in and let you follow the journey, just to show you how it works. So first of all, they're asking for our name and our email address, which I'll put in a test one, and a contact phone number, which is not mandatory. So when we go to the next page, this is when we really get into it. So the way that visual IVR works, if you can imagine, the reason we call it visual IVR is because if you ever phone up a company and you're looking to talk to their customer service team, and it's press 1 for Advantage card, press 2 for product queries, what we're doing is we're doing that digitally, but we're integrating knowledge with it as well. So if I take an example and I say, okay, I'm going to click on the Advantage card section. If you watch the right-hand side of the system now, you'll see what we mean by promoting contextual knowledge. So if I click on Advantage card, then you'll see that on the right-hand side, that knowledge changes and becomes contextual to that customer query. So that's the first thing that's happening. So we know that the customer has an Advantage card query. Can we answer that question over here? What ideally we want to do, so although this is technically an email form, what we're really looking for the customer to do is say, hey, do you know what? This is the answer to my question. Click on this. They get a comprehensive answer to their question. And we're hoping that they say to us, do you still need to contact Boots today? No, I don't still need to contact you. I went to your web form, but then I was able to find the answer to my query. So that really is where a lot of that deflection to knowledge articles comes from. So just for the purpose of the exercise, we'll assume that they didn't find the answer to their question, just to show you some of the other stuff in here. So what we're also doing at the back end of this is we are gathering every single stage. So we're recording all of the information. So everywhere that the customer clicks, we are recording that in a structured manner, so that if the email does come in, we know what's coming, and we're hoping that we can deal with it first time. So if I move on and I click, replacement boots advantage card, you'll see again the knowledge on the right-hand side changes. So how do I replace my lost or stolen or damaged advantage card is now top. So realistically, that should answer the customer question. So we would hope that the customer at this point would click on the knowledge article and get their answer. If they don't, then they move on to the next stage. So to give you an idea, there are about 90 different journeys through this visual IVR system, and each stage is dependent on the stage before, so it's dynamic. So dependent on the information that you feed the system, it will come out with, it will take you to another stage. It almost works like quite a complex flow chart in a way. That's the kind of way that we design it, or the principle that we use to design it. So I'll carry on going through. So if I say I've lost my card, then what we do is we give the customer the opportunity to freehand tell us what their issue is. Now what we found was a lot of customers were just going, yeah, click, 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 next, 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 and trying to get to a stage where they could just basically have a rant and send in their email. So if you watch the right-hand side of the system again, if I, as a customer, begin to type, actually, my question is nothing to do with Advantage Card, it's to do with your terms and conditions. Hopefully you'll see on the right-hand side, as I've typed, we are dynamically searching the knowledge base on the right, and we are trying to catch the customer at this point. So actually I've asked about terms and conditions, and it showed me a load of terms and conditions questions over here. Again, at this point, we hope that the customer will click on that, they'll be able to read the terms and conditions, and they no longer need to send this email. If they do, I'll take you through it. So on this journey, because we know the customer's looking to replace their Boots Advantage card, we are asking them for their home address. So we wouldn't ask for the home address on every single journey. We just ask for it on journeys where it's relevant, and in this case it is. So if we began to type in an address, I'll do this quickly because I'm not going to send this email form in, and they ask for a postcode on here. So if we go next, so they ask for the date of birth as well, so we can just fill that in. So again, what we're trying to do here now, because we know the customer probably isn't going to go over and use the knowledge base, what we're doing is we're gathering every single piece of information that we could need to answer the query first time. So at the moment, we know who they are, so we got their contact details earlier on. We know that they need a replacement Boost Advantage card because they've lost it. We know their address. We know their date of birth. If they have it, which they might not, we know their Advantage card number as well. And if I click submit, that form, we actually, with Boost, funnily enough, we actually integrate with Salesforce. So we pass that information into a Salesforce system. But that information will be structured in a way so that it will hit the right person in the contact center. They can go through the email in a simple to read and structured format, and they can get a new Advantage card sent out to the customer, maybe send them another email acknowledging the fact that they've done so, and that's it. The query's been dealt with first time. Whereas if you had a generic email address, for example, on the website, and somebody emails you and says, hey, I've lost my Boost Advantage card, I need another one, you have to go back and ask them for their address and their date of birth. And then all of a sudden you're into a dialogue that isn't maybe necessary. So what Boots actually do is they've gone quite far with trying to push self-serve knowledge to people. So if I click submit, what actually happens is we say, hey, just before you submit, we found some matching FAQs. Are you sure that you won't self-serve? And then I'm not going to, because again, it's a live system. If I click no, just submit my email, then that will go into the Boots contact center and it will be there to be dealt with. So I'm not going to send that in, but they're launching this at the very final stage to push self-serve. Boots do actually use the Synthetics live chat system, but resourcing it isn't always the easiest thing, so the triggers don't often show. And we've had great success with routing people from visual IVR to live chat channels. So that's the Boots example. I just want to show you one more just to show kind of a bit of I suppose a more modern way of doing it, and also show that live chat integration. So I'm going to flick over to Synco. If you've never heard of Synco, that's probably a good thing because it's a fictitious site. So we built this site just to showcase some of the newer versions of Synthetics products. So there's a trigger in the bottom right here which says need help. If I click on that, we can launch a number of Synthetics customer-facing products. So we have Ask a Question, which is the Synthetics FAQ system. We have Live Chat, which I've spoken about, is our own live chat system. But what we're going to concentrate on today is Send an Email. This is the visual IVR system. So if I click on that, then it started in the middle of a journey. Let's just go to the beginning. So you can see on the Synco one, we've chosen not to ask the customer for their details. We're going straight into the visual IVR journey. So again, imagine it like an IVR. Press 1 for groceries, 2 for delivery, etc. So if I follow, I don't know, the clothing journey, if I click on clothing, straight away, this time on the left-hand side, you'll see the most relevant clothing questions from this made-up knowledge base for Synco. So at any point, hopefully we can access knowledge in there. Just to show you an example of some richer content working within it, you can have things like videos and that within your knowledge base to make things more interesting for the customers. So you can always access knowledge over there. However, if we carry on and we say, okay, I need to find my size, what we can do within Visual IVR is we can automate processes. So if we got somebody saying, hey, I don't know my size, we built in a little, we kind of built this ourselves just to showcase some of the functionality. So if we say, hey, we're male, then it can take some rules from us and it can make calculations. So if I say I'm this tall and I weigh this much, then what it will do is it will do a real quick calculation. It will say, hey, we determined your size is medium. There we go. That process has been automated. So actually, you don't need to contact somebody to find out the information. However, if I go back to the start and I go into the clothing journey again, which is where I just went. So I need to find my size. If somebody says, I need help placing an order, ideally, what we're hoping the system does, which it has there, is it detects that this customer is potentially going to buy something. This is a revenue generation opportunity. So we don't want an email to come in and wait 24 or 48 hours to turn around. We want to pick up this live chat and get the answers to the question now. So if the customer, obviously they can reject it and they can carry on with their web form, that's fine. But if they choose to accept it, because we're using Synthetics live chat here as well, we can click on it and this system will switch its mode of operation and it will go into a live chat. If I then fill that out, we can go into the live chat. Obviously, we are very proud and very happy with our own live chat, but we've integrated with, we're not precious, so we've integrated with a number of other live chat companies as well because we do a lot more than that. So something to potentially bear in mind. So yeah, I'll leave it there on the Synco demo. I really just wanted to show that live chat integration and how that works. So the last thing for me to go through is probably the case study. So we're going to show some real world numbers and examples of what one of our live clients has seen, the results that they've seen from implementing this technology on their website. So I think I've got another presentation here, which is the case study. Yeah. So I'm just going to open that up. So this is a case study of a high street retailer based in the UK that I'm sure many of you have heard of, and you might have even seen their website recently. So I'll start with the challenge. So this is the challenge that the retailer had, and that they put out a tender looking for technology to help them with these issues. So firstly, we put two systems live on their site as part of this bit of work. We're talking about the Visual IVR today, but they had a static FAQ system, which was laborious to go through, and it often resulted in the customer placing a phone call onto the retailer. They had a static FAQ system, and it also caused issues when adding promotional information onto the website. So things like their banner adverts were very hard to manage. The retailer had, this is really the core point, I suppose, the retailer had far too much email correspondence, which was taking up valuable agent resources. They had a huge backlog of emails that they couldn't deal with, and when they got too many emails, what they actually did was they took the email channel off of their website, which obviously caused a dreadful customer experience for those people who had sent emails and gone back to send other emails, only to notice that there was no way to do so. So it was bad all round. The contact center was struggling, and the customers weren't having the best experience. And finally, yeah, as I've alluded to this a couple of times throughout the webinar so far, but it was taking an average of 2.5 email interactions to resolve a query through the email channel. So as I said, people were coming in and saying, yeah, I have lost my Boots Advantage card. And the contact center agents are thinking, great, I don't know your address. I don't know what you need. I don't know if you want a replacement. Are you just informing me of this? All of that stuff. So this was a huge issue, and again was causing the email channel to take a lot longer to deal with than than other channels, digital channels, potentially live chat. So that was it for the challenge. So they're the issues that the retailer was facing. So the solution that Synthetics proposed and then put in was as follows. So we introduced Visual IVR to form the heart of the multi-channel customer experience. So Visual IVR went in predominantly to deal with those web forms, but we also put in the FAQ system to enhance the digital customer experience and allow people to get more answers to the questions online. So yeah, Visual IVR was implemented in place of a generic email address. So that was a real quick win for the business. And it had integrated knowledge and live chat, which I've just shown you examples of. So you kind of know how that works and how that fit together for them. And as part of the deflection process, live chat or knowledge would be offered at the very last instance before sending the web form, as again, I've just shown you an example of. So even if people are hitting submit, we're saying, hey, before you submit, here's some relevant information, or would you like to talk to a live agent? We found that the take up of live chat, again, wow, I'm actually going to talk about this on the next slide, but people generally would love to have a live chat as opposed to waiting 48 hours potentially for an email to come back to them, because they can have their question answered there and then within 5 minutes, probably. And the Visual IVR was structured intelligently. So there are over 90 possible journeys throughout the system, ensuring that all relevant information was always gathered in one go. So depending on what the customer tells us, we structure their journey through the form properly, so that if they do get to the end and they do send that email in, there's a couple of things we can do. Firstly, we can structure it to an agent so it's easy to read. They know what information the customer needs, or they know what the customer needs. They can go back to it first time and resolve that query. So the outcome, so these are the actual numbers and results that we were lucky enough to glean from the retailer. So they had an average customer satisfaction score of 93%. So that is not from our surveying, it's from their surveying. So we gather a lot of information about how many people are using the IVR, how many people start the IVR versus how many finish it. So we record the deflection. But this is where their customer satisfaction scores got to following the implementation of this and other digital customer service channels provided by Synthetics. Emails were reduced by over 50%. Now, that sounds like an outlandish figure. I fully appreciate that. But these are the real figures that came from the retailer. In fairness, they were handling the email channel terribly before, so we had a really good platform to build on and really deliver some results. But even so, reducing emails by over half was brilliant for their contact center. It allowed their contact center agents to firstly breathe again and then be redeployed in different areas of the business to support on more customer-friendly channels like live chat or callback potentially. 90% first contact resolution rates. So, first contact resolution rates increased by 90%. So that's where we're talking about that average of 2.5 interactions per email. We were able to increase the amount of emails that were dealt with first time by 90%, which was absolutely huge in terms of the time and therefore the associated cost, operational cost that was burdened upon the contact center. So 40% of customers chose to live chat rather than fill a form in. So that was absolutely huge. And to be honest, that formulated a big part of this deflection process. And you'll see actually the next stat is around the amount of customers who deflected to FAQs instead of email. So when you join those channels up, you can see 40 and 15% there. So yeah, it was, as I mentioned before, over 50%. It was around 55% of customers who started the web form chose to go a different route, and the retailer much preferred to have contacts coming in via live chat for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, you can deal with 3 live chats at a time. It's a lot speedier to get the relevant information that you need from a customer. If they provide the information wrong in a live chat, it takes you 1 minute to correct them and ask them for the information again, which takes them another minute to come back. If that goes wrong in an email, that's potentially a whole day turnaround. So there are loads of reasons that both the business and the customers preferred live chat. So they're the overall statistics that the retailer come back with, which were fantastic. It's not only within retail that the system's being used, so other clients using Visual IVR include National Express, the transportation company, KCOM, so Kingston Communications, the telco company. Obviously, you've seen the example of Boots there, and it's also being used in water utilities. So Wessex Water, a big client of ours, are using the Visual IVR system, all having fantastic results. So that is it from me on the core of it. Sorry, there's another slide in here about how long we've been working with this particular retailer for. So 5 years now, and we've done a lot of other stuff for them in terms of FAQs and contact center stuff and integration work. So it's been a fantastic journey, I suppose, for us and for them. So I suppose all that remains is firstly to say thanks very much for everybody for listening. Thank you very much for listening to me rabbit on for the last half an hour coming up to. I think I've just fit it in within the time frame that I was hoping for, which is great. So I'll hand over to Neldy. I haven't seen any questions come in because I've been too focused on getting all my words out. But if there are any questions, Neldy?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Neldy. I'm the marketing manager here at Synthetics. We have a few questions that I will present to Neil. One of the questions, Neil, is how long does it take to implement Visual IVR?
Okay, yeah. So Visual IVR, really, the implementation time is dependent on the complexity of the system. So I talked there about having potentially 90 journeys through the form. That's probably the most that we've done. So that would have taken a little bit longer because when you plan it, it's not that difficult. You're basically planning quite a complex flowchart, and then you work into that flowchart the different options, but also things like live chat or callback and where you want to launch things. And the other thing is putting together the knowledge. So the Visual IVR obviously works at its very best when there is supporting knowledge there with it. So typically for a Visual IVR rollout, to actually answer the question, we're looking probably at between 4 and 6 weeks. So not a massive deal of time for an enterprise bit of software in a business. If you're looking at a more complex system with maybe more journeys or more integration work to be done, potentially 6 to 8 weeks, and thereafter, depending on the complexity. So roughly, you're looking at between 4 for the more simple side to 8 and maybe 10 for a more complex.
Great. Yeah. Another question we have is, can you explain a little bit more? You said about it interacting with CRM. Does that record everything that happened on the journey?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's actually a really good question. So the CRM work that we've done, so Synthetics as a business, obviously Visual IVR is one strand of what we do, really. But we have done a lot of integration work with CRMs for a lot of our products. So things like live chat, we're passing live chat transcripts automatically into CRM systems. So with the Visual IVR, in fact, Boots actually have it integrating with Salesforce. So what we can do is we can automatically pass the web form and all of the information from the web form into a CRM system, and it can then log directly against a customer record potentially, or against a customer interaction. So if we are taking unique identifiers that maybe correlate with those unique identifiers that are being used in a CRM. So if you've got the name and the email address and the postcode, for example, then we can automatically log that web form against the customer record, and we can also record all of the information, so we can see where they started, what they've clicked on, and what journey they followed through the web form until the point that they submitted it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Right, I have another question here about the CRM.
Cool.
And this is about the CRM it integrates to. Do you have a few examples of systems that you have integrated with?
Yeah, we do. We can absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of things we can do. I don't have anything on this laptop that I can fire up and actually show now. I've spoken a little bit there about Salesforce. So other systems that we've built integrations with include Microsoft Dynamics. We have done a bit of integration work with Sugar CRM, if anybody's using that. And more broadly, we've integrated with systems like ServiceNow. So a lot of people are using ServiceNow for support and customer support. So we've integrated, and we're doing another integration now with an automotive company within ServiceNow. Active Directory for single sign-on, we've integrated with. So we are very happy, and actually we're looking to integrate with more and more technologies. We've integrated with things in the contact center as well, like Genesys call management systems. So we power the knowledge behind the Genesys call system. So really, integration for us, I mentioned it at the beginning, we use RESTful APIs for all of our products, which means that we can be very adaptable and very flexible with how we integrate.
If there's anyone that has another question, we'll be happy to answer it. I think we've done well today. I believe we have a few minutes left, but if not, we will thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks very much. There's more information on the visual IVR system. If anyone's got any more questions, you can liaise with, I think the emails have been coming from Neldy, so you can send them through to Neldy or myself, and we'll be more than happy to talk further about it. If you go to our website, you might see that some of the information on visual IVR is listed under dynamic web forms. As I mentioned, that is what the version 1 of the system was called. This is the new version 2, and our new website is due to be launched imminently, which is when all the branding and everything will switch over to visual IVR. But for the time being, if you're having more of a look on the website, dynamic web forms is really what you want to be looking at. And of course, all of our other products are on there as well.
Great.
Well, thank you everybody very much for listening, and hopefully we'll speak again in the future.